Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report. This is the space where we bring you Black America's headline news, views, and opinions. I'm Romeo.
Hey there, I'm Brooke.
I'm Demi.
Peace and love, I'm Nielle.
All right, coming up on today's report, civil rights attorney Lee Merritt is back with us to talk the latest criminal justice reforms and what that means for you, Black Americans. Also, Black Voters Matter co-founder Cliff Albright will join us to talk voting rights, Democratic lawmakers, and their hesitation to change the Senate filibuster rule.
Also, a judge halts the sale of an apartment complex where Black graves were buried beneath a parking lot. A boarding school scraps Nicole Hannah Jones's visit over backlash fears, and we have your HBCU headlines.
We have that and so much more. You know why? Because it's our voice and it's our truth. So let's talk about it.
Good evening, Soulmates. Thank you for joining us. We made it through Monday. Let's get started with our top story this Tuesday. We have an update out of Oklahoma. The clemency hearing for Julius Jones has been postponed to Monday, November 1st at 9 a.m. This is an announcement coming from the Oklahoma Pardon and Parole Board. They have actually delayed the hearing until after a ruling has been made on an appeal to a federal judge's decision to not delay executions while a federal lawsuit plays out. So next week, Jones will appear by video from the state penitentiary in McAllister after more than 2 decades on death row. He is now just weeks away from his scheduled execution date. For years, Jones and his supporters have argued he is innocent after he was arrested for killing Edmond businessman Paul Howell. So this is an incredibly important story. Obviously, we've been following this over and over. And so the reason that today's news is extremely important, right? The big news, the big reason this is important is that we're talking just days from the scheduled execution date. And so when you are convicted and sentenced to death, you've got, decades of appeals. You legally have the right to run out that appeals process, and he has reached the very end, and there is a locked-in date. And essentially right now we're talking paperwork and technicalities.
This case is one that is very near and dear to our hearts here. Of course, we've been talking about it and following it. For me, I know a story that's very terribly sad, and I just always, every time we bring this up, take you guys back to the website, justiceforjuliusjones.com, where all of the information about this case, opportunities, of course, to reach out directly to Governor Stitt. And of course, we don't know what exactly is going to be the one straw that tips the camel's back, as they say, to make sure that his execution doesn't go through. But in the meantime, all we can do, of course, is pray over this situation, but also stay proactive, reaching out to Governor Stitt. We don't know. This could help, but it wouldn't do any help if we didn't help, if that makes sense. So reaching out to Governor Stitt, people have been tweeting him, emailing him, writing directly. You can donate to his family to help out with everything going on. So whatever you can do to try to help him, whatever you find in your heart, Soulmates, I'm sure his family will appreciate it.
You just have to imagine, since 1999, right, when they found him guilty, and he's been fighting for his life ever since. And think about that. Think about what he's going through mentally, what his family's going through, and to get to the point where you realize time is actually really running out, but yet you're still trying to prove and show, hey, I am innocent in this situation. So the clock is ticking, and we can only hope for the best.
Yeah, and it's not just him, it's 6 other men, and a judge decided not to stay executions and to move forward. So, we are talking about Julius Jones, but there are other men and people on death row right now who will be executed as well, which opens up the bigger conversation about the death penalty and people wanting to abolish it, because, these cases that are coming up are really proving, some of them is that these people didn't do it or were not sure. You have DNA tests that they didn't have before that they have now that have even proven some people to be innocent. So, I mean, this is really sad for not just him, but, several other people in the state of Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm. On to our next story here. The judge who oversaw the murder trial of former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin said Monday that he will make the names of 15 jurors and alternates who sat in the courtroom public next week. Cahill initially kept the names of the jurors sealed, citing the high-profile nature of the case, and had ordered that their identities remain secret for at least 180 days after the verdict. A media coalition, which includes the Associated Press, asked Cahill to release the jurors' identities, saying the media and public have a right to the information and there was no known threat to jurors' safety that will warrant keeping their names sealed. I believe that it is 109 names that will be revealed because it's the jurors and also the alternates' names as well. And so prosecutors are saying that if these names are released, this could subject them to harassment and make it harder to seat a jury for the trial of the 3 co-defendants next year. And I absolutely agree. I don't think that we need to know this information. You have people who are everyday, the average person who is a teacher, who is working at a retail store. They don't need to be subject to the gruesome, the awful, the dirty press that is going to come along with their names being plastered around the world. Another point here is that the lawyers for the co-defendants, they saw what happened to Derek Chauvin and they want to make sure that they do everything in their power so that their clients don't face the same exact thing. So that could mean toting the line of unethical. That could mean tampering with some evidence. Not to say that they wouldn't, try to be ethical, of course, but you guys know what I'm saying. We've seen it on TV. So I think that this is so dangerous to get those names out there because, again, you have the average person who's just trying to live their life and now their whole life can be turned upside down if their names are revealed.
I saw this conversation kind of happening online, right? And so on one hand, people are saying, look, there's a fear that in high profile cases like this, jurors will be afraid of doing the right thing for fear of harassment and abuse. And then someone said, but wait a minute. Does that create a shield for jurors who are doing the wrong thing? So is there anything to be said about how you feel? I want to ask you, Demi, because you had a really passionate response, and I think this is an important conversation. So, obviously you feel like the jurors did the right thing in this case. And I imagine there are cases like like maybe George Zimmerman, when it comes to Trayvon Martin. Would you feel the same way about the names of those jurors in that instance?
For
something
me,
that you don't agree with.
No. I absolutely agree with you, Brooke. The thing is, as a juror, it's already hard. I think one thing they were saying, it would make jurors want to come back. I would personally be afraid, whether it went right or wrong. Right. I just would be afraid of my name because you're going to have some people, even if I felt like I made the exact decision and my co-jurors, we all made the right decision. And if I felt like we did the wrong decision, I would personally be terrified for my name to be out in the world like that because there are going to be some people who are going to feel like it was the wrong decision no matter what happened.
I
wouldn't want my name out.
Yeah, people are always going to agree or disagree in a situation, but you're right. You made a perfect example because some people want to know the George Zimmerman. Like, yes, we want to know who said it because we all know what happened that day. We feel that he should have been found guilty, right? But then in this particular case, we feel like they did the right thing. At the end of the day, will this stop people from wanting to go on the jury altogether? Maybe even kind of like falsify some things just so they don't have to get on that jury, so they don't be a part of this. Because, yes, there will be backlash. But is this something that comes with it, though?
Well, the reason why this happened was because the media pushed for this. The Associated Press and other media outlets, they went to court to push to get this information released. And it's kind of called like investigative reporting. You want to find out who these jurors were, what compelled them to do this, and you just want more information. So it's kind of all part of the process with court, the press, and so this information it's nothing new to our system.
Right.
I get your point, Demi, as to where you want to remain a private citizen, but it is a part of being a part of a juror, and the press has a right to know this information.
Just my last piece here, I absolutely agree that the press could know it. But with this particular case, with Derek Chauvin, with these cases of black people that are so high profile, like the prosecutors are saying here, I just feel like you are putting those people in danger. These are everyday people. These aren't people that have security walking around with them. It's the everyday average American. If we're talking about a case that you just do jury duty that doesn't become a week-long, year-long process, maybe. But for something that was high profile like Derek Chauvin's murder trial, people are still angry about it. And I feel like you put out, if someone says, Neil or whoever, Neil, for example, if you were a juror, people are going to try, are going to be upset, try to find you. And it's just a scary, it's really scary.
Part of the reason that is because we're in a different time as well. Because we've had bigger cases
you have
too, not
OJ,
as big, but
Rodney King, the
exactly.
Rodney King
I was just going to say
trial,
that.
OJ, all of that. It's part of the process.
It really is, yeah. All right, a rare judicial inquiry began Monday into the death of Eric Garner, whose dying cry of "I can't breathe" as he was restrained by New York police officers became a slogan of the Black Lives Matter movement. Garner's mother, Gwen Carr, and other activists sought the inquiry, hoping it would create a measure of public accountability for his 2014 death. The proceeding before State Supreme Court Justice Erica Edwards, which is happening virtually because of the coronavirus pandemic, started with testimony from Police Lieutenant Christopher Bannon, a commander of Staten Island at the time of Garner's death. You think about what happened in 2014, him saying, "I can't breathe." He said it over 11 times. We fast forward to what happened to George Floyd in 2020, which is another reason why people are saying, how come we can't do the George Floyd Policing Act? What is taking so long to get that pushed through? This was a very devastating day. A lot of things happened that year. Even Mike Brown in St. Louis happened that year, right? So if you think about it, there's still no closure for this family, right? Because they saw what happened that day. We're talking about cigarettes. We're not talking about a man that had a gun that went walking down the street like Rittenhouse did when that was going on right in Wisconsin. We're not talking about that. We're talking about, yes, he was arrested before for something like this, but it shouldn't have led to this.
Absolutely, Romeo. Like you said, this all began with cigarettes, just like George Floyd all began with a $20 bill. You know, there's so much neglect that has gone on with this case, and we could just go on and on and on. And at the end of the day, the very beginning and end of the day, everyone involved with the neglect with these cases, they all need to be charged. And so the scary part is, Romeo, like you said, it's been over 7 years, and some of the people that were involved with this, that had a hand in it, are still on the payroll, still being paid. All those people need to be investigated from top to bottom, and all these cases that we talk about that are regarding Black people.
Definitely.
I think this is also a good example of how, you know, our judicial system works, and how, you know, you can still seek justice in many ways, because we know that none of the other officers were charged. So this is like a special case that was pushed by his family. His mother was on, Eric Garner's mother was on the news this morning. She said it's like opening up a old wound and pouring salt into it. But at the same time, she's glad that this is happening, because although she didn't get the justice that she wanted to see in the courts, this is another avenue for her son to get the justice, and for her to get the satisfaction that she's seeking. Yeah. All right, so soulmates, Lee Merritt was supposed to join us today, but like freedom fighters, something happened. He had to catch a flight out of town. So we're in conversation with his camp, and we're going to reschedule this interview with Lee Merritt later on this week. So coming up, we're going to have a conversation about voting rights with co-founder of Black Voters Matter, Cliff Albright. He's next on Fox Soul's Black Report.